Good morning, everyone. It's very nice to meet you, and it's an honor for me to have this presentation. Today, we will talk about the Hellenic experiment in Western Georgia, how these cities actually emerged here, and the general history of those cities, and then the reason of decline. First, I will start with a very short introduction about the Greek colonies. We all know that the Greek colonization was a massive process, which also affected the Black Sea and also affected the eastern part of the Black Sea, and several colonies were found here. In general, the reasons for colonizations also, we know that one reason for founding the new colony could be that they to find the new lands, to find different resources, including the metals. Also, another reason could be that there was an increase in population in metropolis, and then they would be transferred to a colony. Then there could be also another reason. We know that in some cases the locals also invited the Greeks to found the colony in their territory. In rare cases could be the attempt to escape from your city, or the fall of the other city, like it happened in case of Sybaris, could be the reason of founding another city. As for the specifically Georgia, we definitely know on territory of Colchians, there were three different colonies. That was one Dioscurias, was Phasis. Phasis was the Phasis, and we also know an archaeological site, Pichnari, which is not indicated in the narrative sources and is not known as a Greek colony from narrative sources. However, extremely rich archaeological data coming from this site suggests that there should be a Greek colony also here. Then I will start step by step how it all started, and I believe that the earliest, we all know that the earliest Greek settlement should be near Batumi, which is the most southern part in this case in the coastal line. And then the next should be either Pichnari or Phasis. Phasis, and then comes Dioscurias. In fact, when the Greeks came here on this territory, they may be following the coast of with this direction, counterclockwise direction, and they founded the city step by step in this direction. So, what generally, I'll make an overview of the narrative sources about Greek cities in Colchis. What do we know on empirical level from narrative sources, and then I'll follow the history of specific cities. Pomponius Mela narrates that the city of Phasis in Colchis, at the East Black Sea coast, this is modern Poti, West Georgia, was founded by Themistagoras the Milesian. Despite the fact that it's the later source itself, the note itself dates back to the end of the 8th century BC. According to Arianus, Dioscurias, also modern Sochomiu, was also founded by Milesians. Also, the note actually dates back again to the end of the 6th century BC. Pseudoscylax writes about Hellenic cities in Colchis, and they are as follows: Phasis and Gienos. This is also another city which we know. Its status could be a little bit different, and I will mention it. And this note also dates back the midst of the 4th century BC. We do not have an Aristotle's full account of Phasian constitution, but we have a fragment, so we do know that there was some kind of constitution in Phasis. The later sources, Strabo, for example, describes Dioscurias and Phasis as a trading places of the Colchians. To pay attention that the cities are not Hellenic anymore. They are Colchian trading places. Later, we can say that we have more drama. Pliny mentions that Pityus was pillaged by the local tribes. Pityus itself was not directly founded by Milesians or other Greeks, but it is supposed to be like a sub-colony. The colony founded by other Greek colonies in Colchis. Also, Pliny mentions that Sebastopolis was a castellum, and it was not a city of Dioscurias Sebastopolis anymore. So, Greek influence declined. It's interesting that in the 2nd century, in 131 or 34, as it is dated, Arian saw no Greeks in Phasis and Sebastopolis. So we don't have them anymore here. So what happened to them? There is one interesting information note of Ephorus. It's presented in the fragment of Aristotle that they ran away from there to Miletus. That's kind of it can be like a general understanding that they left Colchian territory, or it can be a reminiscence of the understanding that the Greeks, in fact, mixed with the local population. And why the Greeks could leave Colchis? In fact, if we try to understand what is Colchian, what was the purpose of colonization here, and eventually why they decline, we will understand it. We know that first, what we generally know is that there is a major difference in geographic features between mainland of Greece and Colchis. So that could be also how the geography is actually the reason of it. We will also outline at the end of the lecture. But let's start with different cities. The Phasis. I didn't mention the very small settlement near Batumi because it was an ephemeric, very small settlement and existed only a short time period. And later there is a trace of fire, so possibly this small settlement was later abandoned. But the Phasis and the Dioscurias were the most prominent cities. The Phasis specifically, as we know, was founded by Milesian, certain Themistagoras. Milesian influence is very evident in Phasis because Colchian coins, the so-called Colchian coins, which in fact were coins struck by Greeks here using the local resources, local silver resources, imitate very much and look like very much Milesian coins. These coins actually are for the comparison. The one above is a Colchian tetradrachm. We also know that we have a temple of Artemis and temple of Apollo in the city, and some nominals of Colchian Tetri could be connected with the cult of Apollo and Artemis. This is very interesting also because in Miletus, Apollo was worshipped, and it is believed by scholars that the cult of Apollo was brought by Greek colonists here. We have a small inscription also on a cup found on the territory of modern Russia, which indicates that the inscription itself tells that I belong to Apollo, which is in Phasis. It is interpreted that, in fact, this small vessel belonged to the temple of Apollo, and this temple was located in Phasis. It is believed that this cup could have ended up on the territory of modern Russia as a result of invasions, possibly later Gothic invasions. So we definitely can see this Milesian influence. But later here also we can see one very good example. This is the didrachm from which was struck in Colchis here by Phasis, by the city of Phasis, and we know that the Apollo was the main deity of Phasis, also based on numismatics. And lion, also symbol of the Apollo, was depicted on these local coins. But it is interesting that on the obverse of this coin, we have a lying hermaphrodite lion to the right or to the left, it depends on the coin, and kneeling female figure with a bull's head to the right or left in the quadratum incusum. This is interesting that this lion is a hermaphrodite, and it is believed by scholars that this hermaphroditization of Apollo is a merge, is Apollo's merge with the local female sun deity. While the Apollo as a sun deity was a male, locals believe that the sun deity was a female, so that could be the reason of this hermaphroditization of this lion on these coins. Initially, Phasis was supposed to be an oligarchy, as it was founded by Milesians. But later, during Pericles' expedition in the Black Sea, the scholars believe that the democratic constitution was introduced in Greek colonies in Colchis. Also, you can see some other examples of Colchian tetri struck by Phasians with some small inscriptions which are believed to be the indication of some magistrates, the indication to the names of some magistrates, like Moso and different other letters. And in fact, it should be said that the this depiction of depiction of a bull or some deities should be the fidelity to Republican constitution, also, and to more democratic constitution. In fact, especially after the 5th century BC. To say shortly about another city, also Dioscurias. Dioscurias was a city which was founded near Sohumi. Sohumi and several different archaeological sites are related to it. And as in case of Phasis, this city itself is not unearthed. Only several archaeological sites related to this former Greek colony are excavated. And one of the important places, Eshera. Eshera. And you can see both Sohumi and Eshera. It should be, and this city also was initially founded by Milesians. From Eshera, we have one interesting inscription which can give us a hint about the status or the situation in the city. This is the inscription itself is preserved on fragmentarily, not the whole text is preserved, and it is reconstructed by Graeco-Colchian, and from these scratches we can understand and give some conclusions that at least the city itself tried to preserve their independence at some point. I will just shortly read the text. Rebuilding the city, he can who took from all the kingdom or during the reign of royal official, if the carriage would come, would be arranged, should lead a lamp coming out a harbor to send a disaster direct, exact setting, desertification of the country, foreigners, brave, obstinate, coastal lowland, prize acquisition, Olympian gates of Heracles, a tower entering the kingdom, or during the reign of royal official. So it is believed by scholars that this inscription should show the attempt of the local Greeks to fight for the independence of the city, to maintain the independence of the city. the rest is very difficult to make a conclusion on it. Political status, as for the political status of Greek settlement, whether it was a polis, whether they were polis or emporium, was a matter of much debate in Georgian historiography. And the Assyrian inscription in this regard was very interesting. In the 60s, 70s, and then even in the 2000s, there was a much debate whether they were polis or emporium. Majority of the scholars initially believed that they were more emporium because they were not excavated, and the evidences which already existed did not seem to prove the status. However, some inscriptions, like the inscription of Dioscurias, as it shows the fighting either against the locals or against another city. In fact, it shows that they tried to be independent and have their own foreign policy. And their possible allies could be Heraclians, mentioned in the inscription. Also, another argument which would prove that Dioscuria was a polis, that it may have its own army. Also, we know that from Guadijo burials, there were some weapons discovered, which also proved that they tried to have some independence. And as for having the fleet or having ships, Eshera mentions two words like a harbor and a departure, which also uh, could hint about it. And the same Eshera inscription mentions the tower, which could be used as a part of the defense system. As for the general Greek influence also here, we know one inscription a little bit later, more like an early Roman inscription, but mentions mentions Hermes Mercury. In small inscription, a traveler worships the Lord Hermes Mercury to save yourself. Also, this is coming from Dioscurias, and indicating the Greek Hellenic influence on the local territory. We do know that the later period in Mithridatic age, also we have copper coins, municipal copper coins of Dioscurias. Whether the city was independent or under the influence of Mithridates of Pontus, it's more the scholars are more prone that it's maybe it was used as a mint for Mithridates, but anyway, the city itself issued the copper coins. We do know that the copper coins also are more municipal issues, and uh, these coins specifically indicate on the caps of Dioscuri on the one side, surmounted by 6 or 8 pointed stars, or Theseus or of Dionysus in the center of coin, and the Greek three-line legend on the both sides, Dioscuriados. Dioscuriados, and it should be also mentioned again that for the republics in classical antiquity, they were the gods who justified the legitimacy of the coin. With the decay towards autocracy, the first person started to be portrayed. So, in this case, um, the constitution of Greek colonies here were either oligarchic or later more democratic. So, and anyway, for at least for starting from the 6th century, mostly for 5th century, 4th, and the 3rd century, until the period when the coins were struck, the Phasian coins were struck in Colchians, these cities had their independence and were either oligarchic or democratic. Later, in the Roman era, there was a decay towards autocracy, and the first portraits of the of the persons appeared. Like on the drachma of Aristarchus, there is a depiction of Pompey, head of Pompey in the solar diadem, and Tyche is seated, and the Greek inscription Aristarchus to Epicolchidos, and his regnal years 12. So this is kind of the end, at the end. Then we have another city mentioned, founded by initially by Milesians, but mostly the city itself was flourishing during the Attic era, mainly the 5th century BC and the 4th century BC. And the 5th century BC, we have more huge influence of Athenians on the city that we can say that, sorry, see huge influence of the Athenians that on a cemetery which is found here and excavated here, and several hundreds are excavated here. We can see that it has a very big Greek influence. Because a lot of artifacts in Pitonari cemetery are found here. Here you can see the Greek cemetery, Colchian cemetery, and Hellenistic cemetery. These all cemeteries were excavated by Georgian archaeologist Aminan Kachidze, and all the artifacts found here can be found in his publications in the volumes about Pitonari. The archaeological site was excavated for several decades, and a lot of Greek artifacts were found there, including some very famous examples like this Greek crater found in Pitonari. Another city which was founded here was Gienos. Gienos, also known as the city on this territory, but it is very doubtful that it was a regular city, like because it should be related to the seasonal trading. We do have an information of Strabo, which indicates that the cities where the locals transported timber via rivers. And that's at the end of this river, at the end of River Enguri, in the confluence of River Enguri and the Black Sea, close to that, this timber was collected, and then we do know that it was exported by the Greeks. And the most related city, which is the closest to this region, is Gienos. So in fact, we believe that this Gienos was a more seasonal trading outpost, because in narrative sources we don't have any kind of an indication that it was a Hellenic city. So from this territory, from Svaneti, we have a lot of coins, imported coins discovered, Semomarchi, it's near Svaneti, and this is the place from where usually the transportation of the timber would begin. Then later, here on this territory, in modern Svaneti, were found imported coins. Then this is the part of the river Enguri, and then this territory was from here. It would be transported down to the Black Sea, to the confluence of the river Enguri and the Black Sea. And the closest Greek city was Gienos, which is modern Ochamchire. In Hellenistic era, we see a lot of Greek influence too. Especially, that's interesting that we do have the coins of Alexander found on the territory of Georgia. especially here on this territory in Hellenistic age, it is found as in a form of a hoard. More than 350 coins of Alexander are found there, and it is believed that it should be the result of one big trade exchange. Uh, Trade exchange most probably related to the timber production on this territory. Later, these coins more or less circulated, but the locals also imitated the coins of Alexander. And this is an example which shows they are the like imitations, like barbarian imitations of the coins of Alexander, and later also the coins of Lysimachus were imitated locally. So these coins, as everybody knows, they were like in circulation everywhere in the region. So the uh, locals imitated, in this manner. I also want to say about the influence of Greeks on the hinterland. There is, especially the most famous city is Vani, uh, which is called in Georgian historiography as the city of temples. A lot of temples dated back to the Hellenistic age, especially is this are discovered here in Vani, and they are and what is more interesting in during the excavations of Vani, a lot of Greek imported amphorae and different other artifacts were found, and it is believed that there was a very active engagement of the locals with Greek residents in Phasis, especially in Phasis, or also maybe the residents of Pichunari, which is also closely related to Vani. One and some different artifacts were found here. One very interesting inscription showing kind of Greek influence also in some local traditions is Vani decree. This is a translation of Vinogradov. And shows the text of one inscription reconstructed as much as possible. And I will shortly read this one to show its content. It should be like I would evaluate it as it's like a curse or domination of the text itself. But it's interesting that shows astral deities and some Greek influence in a pantheon of Colchians. For him who repudiates or uncultivated and barren, and after death, let the grave be empty and the children remain orphans. May he suffer over this, and may they destroy his descendants, and may all those who gain their power over the observance of these prescriptions, where possible, prohibit the removal outside of this bronze stela with the aforesaid prescriptions from every shrine, and prevent these resolutions from being infringed, forbidding all those who do not comply with these prescriptions to do this, and also those who are of the ilk and their wives, descendants, and all other people. May the priest ensure this observance, who is in Tazis, that's believed to be one of the places here, and the priest of Poseidon, Vinograd believes it should be the priest of Poseidon, and the priestess who has a residence in Suris. Suris is Vani. Zeus, the earth, and the sun, and the moon, and all other gods and the goddesses be merciful for those who have observed and upheld the truth, who have not perpetrated anything against these prescriptions, and have not advised those who perpetrated such things to perpetrate them, and may the latter be frustrated in all things, and may they be cursed before all the very great gods and for naught else. So it's interesting that showing the possibly the two Greek gods worshipped by the locals here in Vani. Also, we know that the astral deities are generally in uh, this in Colchians, and we know it from a very small poem preserved in folklore in Georgia, which can be translated this way: sun is my mother, moon is my father, and the small stars are my siblings. This actually explains that the sun deity in Georgia was a mother, as I mentioned when I was talking about hermaphroditization of Apollo. Um, and these astral deities are also mentioned in this funny decree, and it is believed that it's coming from classical antiquity, before Christian era in Georgia. So this is a general, in short story of the cities, and then I want to outline what happened with the cities and why they declined. There is one moment, migration of highlanders. Uh, the sources mention that the Hellenic tribes and different other tribes they invaded those cities and attacked them. These attacked them. This is one reason. Also, as a result, the barbarization of the Greeks followed. Arian mentioned that the Greeks here in this region do not know the Greek anymore. Mentions the loss of fluency among Trapezontines, for example, and in the region it seems that this happened. So the general story of the Greek cities, if we can fix this, is that in the 7th century BC, the Ionian city of Miletus possessed exceptional wealth and commercial enterprise, and the Miletus, the greatest trading city, organized the first Greek settlements in Colchis, and the Phasis and Dioscurias were founded by them, and the Themistagoras is believed to be Shachtefer. And the 6th and 4th centuries BC, the Greeks established all their polis, and the Greeks served their major purpose during the activity in Colchis, having in mind subsequent full economic integration of the region with Hellas and highly Hellenized Anatolia. They were supposed to improve local industrial output, and eventually this ended up in failure because of super humidity of the country. In many lowland places where there were terrible marshes here in Colchis, and the Greeks had no special idea how to drain those marshlands, and there was no chance for maintaining Hellenic industrial structures as agriculture was too slow in development, and eventually also it was very hard to um, develop industrial output. Hellenism in Colchis failed, with the Hellenic communities first becoming bilingual, then completely assimilated within the local society. However, the Greeks still exported different materials like timber, as I mentioned, metal. They imported goods, mostly ceramics, which was imitated by the Colchians, and the Phasis and Dioscurias were these splendid cities, the first led by mercantile oligarchies. Later, they became more democratic. And we know about the coin which was issued by them, and the production here flourished at some point. In general, the whole Black Sea area might be looked upon as a multicultural region of which the economic systems were ultimately based on the principle of Hellenism. The age-old maritime route from Sinope towards Phasis was easily covered in 3 days, and from the 3rd century BC, Greeks flooded Colchis also for transit purposes that we know from Strabo, also, who says that towards you can cross Rioni and Virila and they go these rivers, and then from Phasis you can go to the mainland of Greece, and only 10 days were required for this travel. The Colchians used to write in Greek, as you could see from those inscriptions, and they built the temples in Greek style. But in fact, it did not prevent local kings and skeptukhoi, possibly the dukes, in the 3rd century from conquering the Hellenic polis. Then the economic crisis started in the 2nd century BC. But on the verge of the 2nd and the 1st century, and during the Mithridatic Wars, the Colchis became the part of the kingdom of Pontus, and there was a short economic revival. The money actually came again, the imported money also, with the start of the Mithridatic Wars, but after Mithridatic Wars at the end of the 1st century BC, there was a total political chaos in Western Georgia, and eventually the urban life declined, and the Greeks lost their identity. So in fact, the experiment for the inclusion of this land into the Greek economic system failed. And for the Romans in the Roman era, Colchis Lazica was just a Pontic limes to be defended in a manner of the forward defense. And I want to tell it shortly about the global story. Also, that in fact the climate determines economics and the hot and less humid environment defines an early advantage of the south over the north. Indeed, the Egyptian state and the crafts confront entirely the primitive clan system, which exists in fact everywhere. Then the situation has changed, and the north became more technically stronger, and the Norse created a very comfortable vegetation process, while the Egyptians still remained were not in the vanguard anymore. And the countries being superb before, like Egypt and Babylonia or India, now face a new hegemony power, Hellas, already overpopulated and needing grain and the raw materials to be imported. Then the idea and the perception of Europe also has appeared. Europe is a special term for the part of the earth which stipulates or will stipulate the same vanguard level of development. At that point, even Scythia with its rough spring was thought to be reorganized in a Greek manner. Then those countries which needed the additional finances for irrigation, so the making of the Europe started, and these all started by Greeks. And the Greek pattern was that to occupy or even frequently being invited to the key points in different territories, including Colchis, to establish an autonomous Greek social structures granted heavily with the techniques from the metropolis. Then the natives were equipped with the best tools for the agriculture. Then Greek industrial structures were maintained in this background, and they were supposed to export supplies to Hellas and receive back some industrial goods. The Aegean and the Black Sea areas were supposed to form one unique economic space. Anatolia, in fact, was a complete victory for Hellenism, even being integrated politically under Mithridates Eupator. Then the Roman overlordship gave a new sense to the economic prosperity of this Greek world, but there were some serious failures also, and one of the failures, in fact, was in Colchis. Colchis offered a dangerous humidity to the Greek way of life. The Greeks living there had no chance to keep up with the industrial spirit, as the agriculture, because of those marshlands, were very slow in development. And soon the Greek community became a bilingual one, and after totally was assimilated within the Colchian society. And as to the Bosphorus, a corn supply from Asia Minor to Greece had broken the traditional scheme, and the region soon lost its Greek style. So that's the general story of the Greek colonies and of the Hellenic experiment on this uh, territory. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask.